Hi, we're here with Oliver Seil. He is VP of Design at Belkin, and we're going to talk about the office of the future, what the new normal looks like, and industrial design. Hi, Oliver. Thanks for joining us.
Hey Larry, it's nice to be with you.
So, I guess we're all kind of amateur designers at heart. And so, I guess just walk me through your background and kind of what skills you need going in to be an industrial designer, and then what kind of skills you wind up, learning on the fly as you do the job.
Yeah, so being a designer is it's almost impossible to define in one way for everybody because there's so many different avenues of being a good designer. But the key insights you have to have is a sense of empathy and a keen sense of curiosity about how people think and how to empathize with their situation so that you can solve problems. You need to love to solve problems. So a good industrial designer is somebody who really keenly listens and pays attention to other people's needs rather than just sort of thinking about themselves. And a healthy sense of artistic creativity is definitely necessary. But those are the foundational elements you have to have. And it's about listening and finding where problems exist in the world, and then finding mechanical, manufacturable ways, electronic, digital, physical ways to solve those. And then there's an almost unlimited amount of things we can do with that, from the tangible object to the digital solutions that exist today to make our lives a little bit better, each time a little bit at a time.
So at Belkin, you're designing a wide range of products, or you oversee a wide range of products. Um, and as the COVID-19 pandemic unfolds, there's a lot of rethinking of the office. As we go back to the office, which seems to be starting and then stopping, and now we're someplace in between. And also the home becomes an office. So I guess give me your views on sort of how you're approaching design as offices both home and away are getting kind of ripped up.
Yeah, what an unbelievable series of events we're witnessing today. Interestingly enough, in our own corporation, we've done a lot of testing and insight studies about how our own people are doing and how they're feeling about the workplace as we're figuring out what to do about our own office situation. But a lot of it is really applicable to pretty much any office space. We're working with some consultants on that too, so we have some really great data to work with and then to compare with our own needs. But fundamentally, what's been so astonishing really is how easily most people have been able to adapt to not being in the office. And it really is a kind of a lucky circumstance, because if this had happened a few years past, we wouldn't have had the same ability to do video conferencing. We wouldn't have had the possibility to put 10 people on a screen at the same time. We would have lacked some of the foundational technology that we have. So we're actually quite fortunate that that's available to most people at a price point that is affordable. But fundamentally, we find that productivity is really, really high from home. That has to do with the basic idea that you have a bit more freedom how to design your day. Some people start earlier, they end later. They have some more flexibility during the day. So what that means is, while of course in the earlier days of this pandemic, we were all itching to come back, and a lot of company leadership would have been very anxious around productivity and how their business might fare. But what we're finding is that we would be foolish not to take some of this newfound learning about productivity at home into the future. So I think the future of returning to the office, after we get through the initial phase of having to deal with, sanitation and physical distancing, that hopefully is going to ease up. But even then after that, I think it's kind of clear that you can be very productive at home, and you need to be in the office maybe only part of the time. And so what we're expecting is that we're really going to take some deep learnings from this experience to the future, and allow people to spend more time working from home. We believe that that's where the future lies. Most people only want to be in the office for very specific things. Few people need the technology there these days. It's kind of interesting. The design teams need a lot of technology in the office. But many other folks actually need to be in the office maybe only for a few hours every week to have designated time with team members to connect on very particular exercises.
So as far as product design goes, how does what's happening affect, I mean, you're developing products, what, probably a year, maybe year or two in advance. How does what's happening now, kind of influence your design approach? And, and I guess the secondary question to that is, as we work from home, do a lot of those road warrior type devices apply to, remote work at home?
Again, what an interesting time to be a product developer. Road warrior products, of course, took a nosedive in retail for a while, right? As you can imagine. However, we find that some of those products aren't suitable to the home working environment. When you're bridging a short amount of time working from home, then I don't know how you experienced this in your own personal experience, but for me, it was a couple of weeks sitting here with my laptop, expecting to be able to return, and eventually I realized I had to go and get my chair and my big screen and my dock and my keyboard and mouse from the office, because otherwise you can't be fully productive. So what we've learned is that the home office is now a multiple of many compared to the size and reach of the headquarters offices. So now instead of having one large office building for a headquarter, now you have hundreds and hundreds of mini offices. They all need to be equipped according to the user's needs. So we're finding that dock products are incredibly important because you want to avoid the amount of cables you have and the multitude of power adapters. That is very, very interesting. People need to equip the home networking in a better way. That is very clearly a need, and we've seen a great success in the networking space. But any change in societal events and socioeconomic situations leads to design inspiration. We are helping people to work from home in a better way. We're putting bundles of products together that can help people. And we are finding ways to articulate the value proposition of products that relates more to what people are looking for today, to be able to more easily work from home in a more compact space, be more ergonomic. All of those things matter. And it's just a different opportunity for design and innovation to play a role in making people's lives just a little bit more easy and productive.
How much is size a consideration for this stuff? As you move to the home office, I mean, maybe the office dock that you designed for, an open floor plan, is it different than what you would wind up designing for home? Or I guess, what are some of the considerations for the home office versus the corporate office?
What's interesting is that, just a little tangent. So Belkin's been in the business of business forever, right? That's been the core notion of who we design for from the very early days of Chet Pipkin's first, homemade cables till today. We care greatly about the business. So Belkin business is a core notion of our value to the world. And what we know is, though, that the people that are using products for business are still people. They still have very similar needs to everybody else. What does matter sometimes is who's purchasing the product. So the question really is, who's actually making the buying decision? Who's making the technology decision? Is that a central purchasing person or a department that makes a decision about which type of dock to deploy to hundreds of people? Or is it you deciding what fits best in your home? But generally it's, desk space is precious. We care about how things look. We don't want them to be ugly. We want them to be, approachable and easy to use. And we want to make you feel smart when you use them. All those things apply, whether this is a business product that sits on your office desk in an office building or at home. So it's business products sometimes require different ways of communicating value, and you're selling to a different audience. They care about different things, perhaps. But fundamentally, the people that are using these products are the same people. They care mainly about the same things. So that's been a great insight that we've had years and years ago. And that's why our business products aren't really much different in appearance or in their general design than our consumer products would be.
What do you see as I guess, how does your approach change based on who's doing the buying? right? Which honestly, this in the office is that, you know, with the remote work, it's totally in flux, right? Like, do I go out to Best Buy and buy something or Amazon or and expense it? Or is it a case of my company is going to send me something to make me more ergonomic? Like, I think all that's being kind of worked out on the fly. Um, but, you know, as far as who's doing the buying, how does that impact your design decision?
So again, on the design side, it may not affect the product design very much because we think the value proposition of the object and the way you interact needs to be the same. There are some edge cases where you will design a product specifically for offices and to be deployed in large numbers. So for example, we have a product in our assortment that is a power strip that has a timer with a remote switch. You know, so that's really designed for an office environment where you come in the morning, you hit the switch, power comes on, a timer runs off. At the end of the day, that product shuts down. That's designed to be deployed in an office and to help save energy. And from the very beginning, that product was designed with the idea in mind that a person would go around an office with 50 of these or 100 of them, and they would have to open a package and then deploy them. So we had a lot of fun designing that package to be as simple as possible to open, because that person would have to do that 50 times. And then to deploy a user explanation for how to use this little timer switch alongside with the product in the most easy way. So that person could never really make a mistake. They would just unpack it, throw it on the table, it'd be done. So that's an edge case, you know, but most other products would be, the difference would be more in how much you care about a really attractive price point, because when you're buying in bulk, of course, pricing is a huge effect, has a huge effect on attractiveness. And you would probably see more care on the buyer side when it comes to price. But generally, again, from the industrial design point of view, probably not much of a difference. There's some business need to provide great tech support that might be slightly different from the tech support you receive as a regular consumer. But again, those are smaller, I think, in number of those differences.
So the design considerations are really more about scale and then the business equation of price points.
Yeah, that's correct. I think that's accurate. Yeah.
Okay. So I know you've mentioned USBC before. What are some of the most promising enabling technologies you see from a design perspective, whether we're talking remote work or in the office?
Yeah, so for years and years, we've touted the values of USB-C, and as it seems to be the case all the time, it takes years and years to ramp up to really fully become something that people are comfortable with. But we've now really seen it take hold everywhere. And the idea that you can truly replace multiple different types of connectivity solutions with one type of cable and plug, it's slowly but surely here. You know, it's making its way into every office. So docking products, thanks to the sort of the fact that Thunderbolt has also now adopted that the C connector. There are technologies that are converged that really allow people to invest in a docking solution that's small, compact, allows all your peripherals to be connected without much need for having a multitude of different cables. That is really happening today. So you're going to be able to connect your monitors, your power, your storage solutions, and your peripherals all with one power source. So our docks, some of them are equipped with very powerful adapters that allow you to have one single power source for all your devices. You know, so that is stuff that you just couldn't do. You couldn't provide that to people. And there's a great benefit to it. I have trouble getting power to my desk because I don't have that much power outlet availability here. And that alone is a huge help. And to your question earlier, having everything connected to one plug is a great help. You respect people's space. You don't require too much room in a place. Differences across the world also matter, by the way. You know, in different regions, the spaces that we inhabit as individuals vary greatly. In California, we on average have much more space per person than we would have in New York City. So if you go to Seoul or Tokyo or other large metropolitan areas, people's living environments are smaller, more compact. So size and saving the need for multiple power outlets really matter even more there than they would matter to people like myself here in LA. So smaller, more powerful, more universal. It's huge.
So you'd mentioned USB-C took a while to catch on, and then you have the other side, right? Like to get a USB-C monitor or whatever, takes some time to get. I mean, I have a monitor that's like older than dirt, but it still works, right? Um, so how do you design for that in terms of product cycle? Like, I mean, are you looking at like, 6-year timeframes in terms of like mass scale adoption, or I guess how do you view it?
Yeah, I think mass adoption is here now. But it took a couple of years longer than we were hoping for. But that's the golden question in any manufacturing and technology anyways, is, how soon do you buy into something and then commit larger manufacturing capacities to it, for example. But in this case, we were quick. We were early to USB-C, and it's paying off, and we're very excited about this technology in general. But it's, different types of technologies come and go. We've seen that with Thunderbolt. Again, that's an interesting example. Who knows what we're going to see with other types of connectivity, but USB-C, I think for the first time really has this promise of truly being that one connector type and connectivity type that really can make it work across all of the industry, from laptops to monitors to mobile devices. And that just wasn't there before. And so we are really excited about that because it has so many benefits for even the planet in terms of environmental sustainability, responsibility. Those things are important to us.
And it saves a ton of space.
It saves a ton of space. And in my drawer, I have a junk drawer here that's full of USB micro B cables and other assorted junk that I'm going to be disposing of in an environmentally responsible way, hopefully soon.
How much does sustainability play into how you think about design?
Yeah, that's a really great question. We have large ambitions, and as a company, you have committed large amounts of resources to becoming more and more environmentally sound and sustainable. It is absolutely important. And all of us individually, of course, are hugely excited and interested in making things that are more sustainable. What we have to rely on in some degree is we need government support, I think, to make sure that policies are in place that enable all of us to be to do these kinds of activities without having a negative economic impact. So that's sometimes a very difficult challenge. The materials needed to be more sustainable may be more expensive. They may be harder to come by. So we don't see that a lot of consumers consistently want to spend more money or are willing to spend more money on those things. But we're making huge inroads. So for example, the elimination of single-use plastics in our packaging, the reduction of packaging size, all of that has a huge impact, right, cumulatively. We're looking at 60, 80 million products every year that ship, maybe more, with a Belkin Linksys logo on them, probably more than what I just mentioned. And each one of them has a package. And if we can eliminate single-use plastics from them, that'd be great. As a global organization, we look to all regions for guidance. The Australian government has been very, very pushy on that side. The Europeans have been very pushy. We adopt those policies as soon as they arise, and we pursue them, and we are excited to become and be more sustainable.
So a designer has a role in sustainability, but it's really about corporations, governments, supply chain. It's the designer is like one part of a probably team of 12 that have to move in the same direction, right?
That's true, but it's a push and pull.
Right.
The individual has a lot of power sometimes to instigate ideas. And that's in some ways one of the joys of being in the design team, that when you're creating products or solutions, that you get a forum and a platform to stand on to socialize your idea. And if there is an impactful concept that requires environmentally sustainable materials, then we can kind of start a storm of ideas that includes maybe how to market something like that, how to make it work. And so while we definitely require that in the big picture, we require everyone to play a role in that, governments and so on, it often starts with the inkling of a designer's concept, and it can kickstart a great success.
How do you prepare for new devices that are coming down the pipe? So, say you're making docks for, some new flavor of PC or mobile phone or whatever. How much of a heads up do you guys get to actually, before you actually get to start developing? Or do you just get like a connector that'll be in the phone or whatever to start thinking about accessories?
As a technology company, what we have accepted as one of our realities is we have to be really knowledgeable about future technologies. And so that's a bit separate maybe from future devices. So the devices would incorporate new technologies, and we often really have no clue what's happening until we hear it like everybody else does through the rumor mill or in some other way. But the way we deal with that is we invest heavily in just being knowledgeable about all future technologies. And so being part of that global community of technology companies, we have teams of experts who can speak knowledgeably and be part of the forums, the industrial forums and the technology forums where these things are developed. So we would know early when we would be involved in conversations about new types of connectors or networking technologies. That's just part of our business. How that then relates to individual devices, that's completely varied, and it depends on the circumstance. But we are a team of experts, so we can speak the same language. And when these devices come to market, when we become aware of them, we can then respond. We couldn't make this work if we were just waiting for devices to show up. That just wouldn't work, right?
Right. So it's about being proactive and kind of taking some educated guesses about what's coming down the road.
That's right. You have to be your own expert and invest in that separately. You can't afford not to. And that puts us in a great position, also being with our manufacturing platforms that we have, manufacturing capabilities where we're able to not just understand how the technology works, but also be part of creating it from the beginning. Like USBC we were part of the creation of USBC technology. So we knew how to do it from the very beginning.
What about the design profession, in terms of takeaways that, that I didn't ask about that, you want to throw out there?
So actually maybe we can weave it back into the office of the future. I think that might be interesting. So we've done quite a bit of introspection and research into what people are looking for in the office. Why are they coming to the office? Why is going to the office an attractive idea? And we find that while some folks can exist pretty much all the time working from home, and it's not a big problem, we find that the design team really suffers to some degree from the lack of the serendipitous collaboration and also planful collaboration. Designers need to be communicators. Designers need to be collaborators. Designers need to work with one another, and the feedback loop of working with another person is an incredibly joyful and productive exchange. So the idea that somebody that as a designer, you need to be very hands-on. So coming back to the office for us is vital to collaborate and to really push each other forward in our thinking about what we are working on. Doing this separately from home is very difficult. It's very difficult. You can be productive, but the value of an exchange with another person or multiple people in brainstorms and hands-on build sessions is so much greater. So for me, it's the idea that we need spaces to build things. We need the joy of building things with our hands and watching other people interact and have an unending curiosity about how people think. And that's the most important thing about design. It's not about what it looks like. That's kind of easy. That's the easier part of design. But how it functions and how it references human nature, that's really where it's at. So for a designer, try to think more like a psychologist, somebody who's really curious about humans.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, my working theory is that everybody needs to be a psychology minor somewhere. that and economics, like just kind of basic human nature sort of thing. So
It's good aspiration.
yeah, well, thanks for joining us. And anything else you want to toss in before we wrap up?
No, thank you, Larry. It's a pleasure, and hope you have a great day.
You too. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Larry.